Thank you and welcome everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to this panel discussion. It is being organized in collaboration with Plurilingual Lab. You get to meet them, team members from that center very soon. We'll be talking about our centers, the different programs we organize, and how we have come to learn from ourselves and what we can also learn from ourselves. So without taking much time, I would invite my colleague Lisa to move on to the next slide so you can get to meet the speakers for this session.
Okay. So myself, Enrica Picado, in the head of CIRL, which is the Center for Educational Research in Languages and Literacies. My colleague, Angelica Galante, Professor Angelica Galante from McGill University, who's the head of the Plurilingual Lab, and Professor Jim Cummins, who's an emeritus professor at OISI, also had been part and partially also directed the CIRL Center for 1 year. Jim, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he has been involved in the center for quite a while. And the other panelists will be Aisha Adebayo, that you have just heard over the first slide. Yeah, I was trying to take out the image. Just make it small for a moment. It's okay. It's okay. We see the picture and then we make it big again. So Aisha is a PhD student in our program, and she's collaborated a lot for years now, a couple of years with CIRL. In the Symposium, Research Colloquium, website, social media. Lisa Lappner is also a PhD candidate in our program, and she has been collaborating like Aisha for quite a while now, and being this whole behind the organization of this symposium, but also coordinated other activities for the center. John Wayne de la Cruz is a PhD candidate in the Department of Integrated Studies in Education at McGill University with Professor Galante, and he has also collaborated since the beginning, I would say, or for a long time, with the Plurilingual Lab, and in particular is the organizer of the grad talk, and is online. And Yunja She is also a PhD student in the Department of Integrated Studies in Education at University, and she is a collaborator with the Plurilingual Lab, and particularly the coordinator of my research story. They will tell us all these students or PhD candidates will tell us more about the different things they have been doing. So why did we organize this panel discussion? Because we are focused, as I tried to say already yesterday in my introduction, we strongly believe that working in the center or having students working together with us in center is a big opportunity, I would say a unique opportunity for training and mentoring them in leadership skills, which is a core area in our scholarly work. But it's also a way of creating networking opportunities. And we've seen with this symposium how much networking there has been. And sometimes we fly all the way to another side of the world where we don't have enough networking in a more local level. And this kind of work in the center creates opportunity for networking locally, strongly, but with opening to global communities as well. And being committed to social justice and open access to academia is what I mentioned yesterday for the symposium, and what we are strongly pursuing in both centers. So we want to discuss a bit more this and raising awareness in the audience about the power of centers as spaces for intellectual conversations. That it's not always so visible in universities. They are not sometimes so visible as they should be, or foregrounded, I should say, as they should be, in my opinion. And so the ultimate goal is that hopefully we can inspire the creation of similar student-oriented research centers. So I'm going to talk just a moment about Cyril. Cyril is not always called the Cyril. Its name was the Modern Language Center. It was founded in 1968 and directed by Professor David Stern for quite a long time. And it became Cyril only in 2010, when the name Modern Language Center sounded a bit narrow and was changed into a vision that would bring together both languages and literacies, and because they are a synergic aspect of our work. What was done before I took the responsibility when I started having this responsibility of the center was still supported out of the faculty's research grants. So when the faculties had the research grant, they gave some part of it, a specific amount that had been agreed upon, to the center. And the center was focusing on basically working during the year to make the research that the different students and faculties were doing visible to the community, and to working with other stakeholders that were both local and a bit outside, depending on the year. And there was a yearly moment, was a day, basically a day of study, where there was a sharing of the work done by the graduate students and the faculties. First, which had been recorded in a paper, like in a little brochure, with all the abstract and the titles and everything that had been done over the year by both the faculty and the research, the different PhD students, candidates, etc. Publications, presentations, and so on. And there was this kind of moment of research once a year. And we have a course at OISE called the Research Colloquium, where we invite researchers. Once was more locally to present, and now with new technologies is also from abroad, but the center covered also some of the cost to have some researchers come and present at the Research Colloquium. The idea is to provide the students with the possibility of being exposed to different research and not just those of the faculties of OISE. And this was part of Cyril. But when I kind of took this responsibility, well, first of all, the money had already been cut. Like there was no longer this idea that the faculties would contribute part of their research to the center. That had already been cut a couple of years before I joined it. So the center was really in a great risk of being closed down, because there was something like $3,000 on the account, nothing more. And I said, no, that would be really not a good idea. I mean, this is an important center that is known world over, has incredible faculties but participating in it. So even with very little money, we can start doing something. And that was, I thought, was my mission, at least the one I saw as my mission. And little by little, getting funds from the Dean's Research Office, there was at the same time, Professor Stern had, there was a legacy that he left, and that helped to fund the Stern Award, which is an award given every year to teachers who have distinguished themselves in the teaching of languages other than English, like can be French, can be any other language. And part of this legacy went to create this award. And let's say the leftover, a little part went into the pot, the envelope of Cyril, that allowed me to have a little bit of money, really not much, but to start something. And I was able to secure one graduate assistant every year for Cyril, which was very difficult to have from the university, but I think nothing is written in stone, but I think now it's there. And so I said, okay, let's start with what we have. Website with community and activities series, what we really created. We continued, of course, the research colloquium because that was part of it. And thanks to the technology, this didn't cost anything because we could invite even researchers from very far to speak at the research colloquium. And as I said, the Stern Award, but what I particularly wanted to start as an idea, as a way of creating this community was the yearly symposium. And this is the 5th edition, which I initially thought we can't do it all by ourselves. It doesn't mean much. I mean, it really doesn't make too much sense to do a Cyril symposium. We have a lot of expertise and fantastic research around us, so we should really break these silences. And here we are. That's the 5th symposium. And I leave to my colleague to talk about the Plurilingual Lab.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Enrica. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to start by saying that I am a person who kind of graduated from Searle. So being in Searle also inspired me to create my own, it's not a research center yet because we don't have funding to call it that, but it's a laboratory called Plurilingual Lab. So let me give you a little bit of overview of how we started and perhaps inspire you to start your own network. Because many times we think that we need funding first to start something. But I remember I started with the idea of having a lab when I was still applying for jobs. I was still a PhD student, and I came up with the name Plurilingual Lab because I didn't have a website yet. I didn't have anything. I created a Twitter account. I thought, okay, creating a Twitter account is cheap. I mean, it's free. And from there, I started creating the social media, but just having the name. And I thought once I have, a house for this lab, then I can come up with a website and have people and work together to mobilize knowledge of research, not only my research, but the students' research and the professors that work with us. So I started in 2018 at Concordia University. That was my first position as an assistant professor. And I basically started with a request from a local, it was a professor who was visiting Montreal. And he said, oh, I would love to be able to be hosted by your university. Do you think there is a place for that? And then I thought, wow, we don't have a place for that, but I think that's a very good opportunity to start. So why don't we create a Plurilingual Lab speaker series? And you're going to be the first person. So he did come in person and it was very successful. There were about 50 people in the room. From there, it was a wonderful inspiration for us to continue hosting these series. So we started very small. John Wayne de la Cruz, who is going to be speaking here, was my first master student. So he has been following our lab from day one. We had conversations actually like, okay, what are we going to do with this lab idea? So he also helped me create some inspirations for other things, such as have all the recordings, for example, on YouTube. At that time, we were doing blog posts, but it wasn't very sustainable, and sharing pedagogical resources drawn from research. 1 year later, I moved my position to McGill University. We continued doing the things that we were doing before, but with COVID, we have to move the speaker series online, which was both a concern at the time, But we saw that also as an opportunity because instead of reaching the Montreal area or folks who, one of the presenters actually here, Vijay Ranjatan was one of the first presenters in person at McGill University who actually traveled from Toronto to Montreal to do a talk. But after COVID, we thought, well, we either stop or we continue. So we moved everything online and we started reaching an international audience. So nowadays we have about a listserv of about 3,000 people from all around the world. The graduate talks and the Plurilingual Lab Speaker Series are done every month and they are free and lots of recordings on YouTube. But I'm not going to talk much about that because we're going to see some examples. I have to acknowledge funding that we have been receiving over the past 3 years from the Center for the Study of Learning and Performance. Very modest funding, but it helps provide some kind of honorarium to all of the students. Currently, we have 8 students who are volunteer, but also receive a little bit of an honorarium to create and be the leaders of these initiatives. So I basically coordinate everything, but they are the ones leading the way. So I'll stop here and I'll move it on to, who is it? To Aisha.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that overview of what both centers do. So as the title on this slide says, I'll be asking Professor Jim Cummins some questions to like give us more insight about the past of serious past. So thank you so much, Professor Jim, for joining us for this session. Um, I would like you to start by telling us a bit about your involvement with the Modern Language Center, which is now Cyril. Thank you so much.
Okay, first of all, thanks Aisha, and thanks to the organizers for the opportunity to be part of this panel. I first got involved in the Modern Language Center back in the fall of 1978. They had got some money from the federal government from a sector called the Multiculturalism Directorate for a one-year visiting professor, and they offered that position to me. So I was there for 1 year, and then the funds ran out. They managed to extend the funds for a second year, which I found out about a month after I was supposed to start. So I was kind of hanging on by my fingertips, and then that money ran out. And in the meantime, I'd generated some research funds, which allowed me to stay on for a third year. As you can tell from what I'm saying, jobs are hard to come by at that stage. Then in 1981, David Stern, who was the founder or initial director of or initial head of the Modern Language Center, retired, and a position became available, and I got that position. So I've been a full-time faculty member since 1981.
Interesting. I find the years you are calling very interesting because I try to think, oh, I wasn't even around at that time. But it's I feel very honored to be a part of a center that has been that long and that has also been very impactful. So that would lead me to my second question. I'm wondering if you have any idea about what led to the creation of the center, because as we see, it's a very important one.
Well, the center came about pretty much around the same time as applied linguistics began to emerge as a specific discipline or sub-discipline within linguistics. Some of the initial conceptualization of the field took place in the United Kingdom, and one of the people who was very much involved in that conceptualization was a professor called Patrick Allen. And Patrick was one of the authors or editors of one of the initial books that kind of laid out or mapped out what applied linguistics could be. And he was, I think, one of the first faculty members after David Stern to be appointed. So he came from the UK. So the Modern Language Center came about through the emergence of applied linguistics more generally as a field. And in the Canadian context, these issues were also becoming more salient because the Bilingualism and Biculturalism Commission had been working during the 60s and reported its findings in the late 1960s, so around the same time as the center was formed. And the whole focus on having two official languages and having educational programs that were supporting those programs was something that was persuasive to policymakers and to university officials in terms of having a research focus on this. And French immersion programs had started in the Montreal area in the mid 60s. And so they were beginning to spread right across Canada. So again, that contributed to a sense that there was a need for some focused scholarly research on language education issues and specifically French immersion issues. So there were a variety of factors, both scholarly and political and societal, coming together at the same time to give a lot of energy to this new focus within the university.
Thank you so much. I really like that the way you talked about what led to the creation is kind of different from what Professor Galante talked about, which is maybe I think from her need to have a community, right? That's kind of where Plurilingual Lab started from. So to audience listening, you can, if you want to start any center, the need for it can be different. So just watch out and see how you feel inspired to start one. So this brings us to the final question in this our short interview. I would like to ask you that in what way do you think the presence of centers like the Model Language Center or CEREL has contributed to the scholarly community, in particular at OEZ, and maybe in the past, and maybe globally in the past as well? If you can speak to that.
Yeah, as I said, when I first came to the center, there was a lot of factors coming together. The bilingual, what they call the Bilingual Education Project, which was led by Meryl Swain, had started in 1974, and that was evaluating all of the French immersion programs across Canada. In 1977, the Ontario government created the Ontario Heritage Language Program, which provided funds for teaching of languages other than English and French and Aboriginal languages outside of the regular school day for the most part. So there was a variety of things coming together. And so there were students coming to the center who were coming from a variety of different interests and disciplinary backgrounds. And there very quickly emerged a strong student presence, and it was a very kind of democratic process. Students were involved in the advisory committee, the committee that we had an external advisory committee of about, say, ranged from, say, 8 to 10 people from various community groups and school boards, and there were 2 student representatives on that committee. So students were very much involved in everything that was going on in the center. In the mid 1980s, I guess it was maybe 1982, 83, we obtained for the time, a very large SSHRC grant called the Development of Bilingual Proficiency, which brought together research on more general language learning issues, French immersion issues, heritage language issues, immigrant language learning issues. So all of those things came together in an integrated way. So there was a real sense that there were connections across the various faculty members and the students who were doing master's or graduate programs within the center. And obviously that's continued to the present day. But there was a lot of energy, excitement, and there were more varied sources of funding at that stage than there are right now. Right now, it's pretty much a shirk and with maybe 1 or 2 other opportunities. But in the initial 20 or 30 years of the of the center, there was a block grant from the Ministry of Education that went directly to OISE. So we had privileged access to those funds. It was a competitive process, but we weren't competing against other universities. And so there was more money around. And I think what led to, and that also led to a sense that we needed to change our focus from modern language center to a center that integrated both language and literacies. And that was also brought about by the fact that positions at various stages were not being replaced. So if somebody retired or if a couple of people were going on sabbatical, there was a real crunch in terms of the number of faculty available to supervise students and do the other kinds of things that needed to be done. And so initially the second language education program was formed as a program within OISE, a graduate program, and then after that Cyril came in. But the part of the rationale for expanding the focus was that there was a real danger because faculty were not being replaced, that a program just focusing on second language education would not survive because the number of faculty had dropped to just a handful at that stage. So by broadening it to include literacy and literacies in addition to second language education, there was more I guess more substance there in terms of the number of faculty who were part of the group.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I believe with that, your answers to these questions, the audience would have learned a thing or two about Cyril's past. And thank you, Professor Erika, for telling us about what Cyril has been up to since he took over. So now, because of time, we'll move to the next slide where my colleague Lisa starts with telling us about the current events and programs we have at Cyril.
Thank you, Aisha. I'll actually start talking about number 5 on the slide, which is the symposium, because this is the one you all know, because you're all taking part in it. As you might know, this is an annual event. So it is always organized in collaboration with other universities in Ontario. Last year, for example, it was held at UTM. But Cyril is here all year round, not just for the symposium. We exist all year round. And then now I'll start talking about the first part, which are the grad talks. These are grad talks by students who come to us at different stages of their research and who just want to share their ideas and want to get feedback. I should say, so Rebecca Schmore, our presenter from yesterday, she was our most recent grad talk presenter, and I should actually say Dr. Schmore because she came to us, I think 5 days before her defense. She practiced, we gave her feedback, and then she successfully defended her dissertation. And this is really something that's very dear to my heart because you have your colleagues and you see what they start out doing. And then once they come to the grad talk, then you actually see the final result. And it's always really nice to see. Then the research circle, this is for scholars that either we approach or they approach us. And then we just facilitate discussion or presentation in order to disseminate knowledge. And then the research colloquium is actually, I think I talked about this before, is a course that is mandatory for some students at OISE. And then we also help with organization and disseminate that knowledge and by putting up the recordings on our website. And then there's also a podcast. You can find us on all multiple podcast platforms. The Plurilingually Speaking podcast, which is where students have informal conversations with scholars. And it is all edited and uploaded and created by students.
So thank you, Lisa. In addition to this, we also host book launch parties to celebrate newly published books. So by faculties or sometimes students, we had a student who had a book that she wanted us to launch for her, and we did that. So I would like to tell you that you should be on the lookout. We have a book launch coming up before the year ends. So follow us on our social media and website to find out when the information comes out. Another event we have like an annual event. And last year we had the publishing party, which was created to help students find out the different publication opportunities they can explore either as students or even faculty. Faculty members were there and they benefited. One thing we also do, which is on our website, is that we advertise a call for participants for ongoing research for both faculty and students, particularly faculties anyways, but if you're interested in being a participant, or if you're a researcher, you'd like to advertise your call for participants, please reach out to us and we would be happy to help you put them on our website, on our social media handles. So lastly, all our events are on our websites and our social media handles, like I've said before. So you should check out those. And if there are a lot of resources there as well, we'll talk about these later. So now I'm going to pass on to my colleagues at Plurilingual Lab to tell you a bit more of what they are doing. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everyone. Compared to Cyril, our lab is relatively young, but we do like make our ways to achieve those achievements, I assume. So we currently there are currently 3 programs I call or initiatives ongoing, which are speaker series, grad talks, and my research story. And Angelica, she has like explained so much about how she created her first speaker series. And currently, I think Jong and we did a math, and there are 433 speaker series in total. And also for the second one, Red Talks, Jong gonna show you more about it in his slides. So in total, we have about 28, right, Jong? 28 grad talks in total. And for the third one, my research story, that's my project. And so far, we have successfully created 9 videos, which tell stories about our grad students. We also create our website and we try to make all the research resources accessible to other researchers and practitioners. So we have uploaded all the our previous research outcomes like the plurilingual guide for DJ samples, instruments, and we also have our YouTube channel, which we uploaded almost all the recordings of speaker series, grad talks, and my research story there. So if you would like to check, they are all there. And also we have these links which would guide you to the publications of our lab members. Okay, and I think that's it. So I think now we can welcome John for his work in the grad talks, right? Yes.
Yes, thanks, Inja. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever we are. I thought it was kind of poetic talking about grad talks today because Facebook memories just reminded me that 4 years ago today, we put out the first poster for the first grad talks that we hosted back in October 2020. But just to give you a little bit more of an overview about what grad talks is about, I think when Angelica and I were talking about starting it, we really wanted to create a space for graduate students to be able to come and talk about the research at any stage, especially because typically, say for academic conferences, there's really not much space, if at all, for early stage research. Like they don't really accept research at the proposal stage or those who are just still thinking about the methodological design, etc. And so we really wanted to create a space for graduate students to talk about research run by graduate students also. And in this sense, we wanted grad talks to have more of a conversational feel, to have less stakes, to encourage grad students, not only PhD students, but also master students to come and share about what they're doing and maybe get feedback about their ongoing research. And for some of our talks, actually, some presenters have talked about future research that they want to do once they finish their current program, etc. And I think because it started towards the later end of 2020, there was no other option but to do it online because of COVID. And so we immediately just thought of, okay, how can we leverage this online format to maybe reach as wide an audience as we can, even though we started recruiting first presenters from local universities here in Montreal, like UQAM, UDM, McGill, Concordia. Eventually, in the past year alone, we've hosted presenters from the UK, Australia, etc. And sometimes this could be challenging too, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Actually, I can talk about it now. And I guess that's one of the bigger challenges is as an organizer, is making sure that everything runs smoothly, especially when there are changes to the time zones, which happens like twice here for EST and ET. I have had at least one presenter. We missed her presentation actually because of confusion with regards to the time zone. So those things happen, but in many ways, it's still very fulfilling doing grad talks. Um, Although I guess now Angelica is moving forward to developing the team more, because for the past 4 years, it's been very much run between maybe me and someone else, and sometimes just me, which is fine because especially in the beginning, grad talks wasn't very popular at all, so organizing it wasn't super challenging. But once word got out, everyone wants to do a talk here and there, but we didn't have the manpower to just host more than one talk a month, and even then, we might have to reduce it just because graduate students are busy also. And so sometimes you just go through a flood of emails, trying to negotiate when someone can present, what day, what time, etc. And even if they've already committed, because grad talks is somewhat less stakes and it's more of some sort of an invitational kind of talk, even if they do submit their abstract and we go through it, etc. Some participants just decide that even if they've committed to doing a talk 3 months in advance, the month off, they'll just be like, actually, I can't do it anymore. Or sometimes they just ghost me, which is, I don't know which is worse, out flat out telling me they can't do a talk anymore or just kind of disappearing. But overall, grad talks has taught me a lot of things as a graduate student, especially since kind of started it right after finishing my master's and just when I was starting my PhD. It really helped me learn more about my own research interest and my own kind of point of view about research, but what I want to do, because I'm always exposed to what my peers are doing. I'm always kind of in this process of thinking like, oh, they're doing this. Oh, I wonder if I can do something similar, or maybe I wanted to do it differently, etc. Especially because even if many of us are working on the same topics or research area, we all have our own way of going about investigating the topic or area. And I think the bigger part of it too is kind of learning a lot of mentorship and collaborative practice skills, because we attendees to grad talks, we're all there to have a conversation and to give and receive feedback about research that's being presented. And I think usually as graduate students, we're used to getting that experience from, say, your PhD supervisor, your committee members, or when you go to conferences, maybe from senior scholars. But in this setting, it's really more very collaborative and a lot of peer mentorship. And I've been able to also leverage my experience organizing grad talks to kind of explore other types of service roles that I've been interested in. So after like 2 years doing grad talks, I was able to join the event planning subcommittee for the Graduate Student Council of the American Association for Applied Linguistics. And one thing led to another. And this year is my second year co-chairing the Graduate Student Council for AAAL, just because of grad talks to kind of give you that opportunity to reflect and actually think of, oh, maybe I like doing this. Maybe I like working with graduate students. And of course, that event organizing part can be very useful, because, you know, I've learned about not only how to chair talks and things like that, but also the subtleties of communicating with potential presenters, negotiating time and date and things like that, but also delegating tasks. Because at one point, I really just had to, you know, get help from other graduate students and ask them, okay, can we do the poster by this day? We need it now. Can we post it now? Like, and things like that. And I think these are things that we just never learn from our courses, which tend to be either very theoretical or methodological. I think I'll stop there. And I'll pass it on to Yunja.
Now move John a little bit away from my topic. Yeah, so compared to John, who has a group right now, I work like most of the time solely. So I am the coordinator of my research story program, and this is so basically this is the screenshot of John's video. Sorry, John, but yeah, because this is my latest, so I choose this one. I would call this, well, actually, Angelica joked about how this program is my own baby. I'm not saying that I came up with the idea of creating this project because I joined the lab like 2 years ago, but I do try my best to like strengthen it with my own ability. So this is a screenshot, and if you want, I have the other 8 videos I created over there, and if you scan it, you will jump to the My Research Story channel. So basically, what I did is that I filmed these videos with my participants who are grad students in researching in language education at McGill. I filmed their videos in campus, and I tried to, locate the sightseeing views at McGill, and this is one of them. Any of you guys who joined ACLA this year, when you climbed up the terrible hill, there's a playground on I think it's the right side, and the view there is fantastic. So I filmed John's video there. So basically, I kind of had this interview type of video with my participant, share their stories about their own research with a particular look at their positionality. So, and I guess this is probably the longest part in the video, because my participants, they were so excited about telling their own story, how their unique living experience has guided them to their own academic trajectories. And as well, accompanying with their photos, videos that they shared with me, you have this, engaging videos where you can literally like see how they become a researcher, like John, okay? And so this is a goal of my research, of my program. And for me, a graduate student, participant in a program like this, first, it strengthened my video editing skills, definitely, because before doing this, I was just a young lady who loved to vlog my life. And then when I told Angelica that, well, I had some, basic video editing skills, she was like, okay, how about, filming this My Research Story? And, I said confidently, yeah, sure, no problem. But the inside me was like, oh, shoot, what should I do? I have to, self-upgrade it myself in a short period so that I could have a video like this. So if you kind of looked into my first video, which is my own video, like literally my research program, and the latest one, John's, you're gonna see this huge development I've made in 2 years, in editing skills. And of course, my communicative skills, because I have to try my way to approach to those potential participants. So what I did is that I actively joined all the internal conferences at McGill, hosted by Faculty of Education, and Angelica hosts a kind of like Swahili. So it's like an happy hour for language education students and professors. So I sneaked around and, listened to their conversations. And when I heard like keywords like thesis, research, and I kind of jumped in and say, oh, hey, how's everything going? How's your research? Have you done your data analyst? Would you like to, do a video to introduce your research? So because I know there's an old saying in Chinese that you won't slap someone if you see their smiling face. So that's how I made it. Because most of the time I got the answer yes. So that's how I have like 9 videos so far. And of course, I also like deepen my understanding of the like different research methodologies, because I heard and I see and I looked at the transcript that my participants gave to me, and I might see their methodologies before they present it in conferences. And the last one is that, well, actually, my projects bring me access to other similar work. Like currently, I am also working doing the video editing work in AALE video projects. That's Erica's project. And also, I was invited to do the AAAL oral history project. Well, also, I call it a win-win situation, because not only for me, but for the Plurilingual Lab, I helped them to enrich the video format. Before I joined the lab, the whole my research program was a self-recording. Like you introduce your research to phone, and you record it and you post it on YouTube channel. But I helped to make it like more formal and engaging. And also, again, according to Angelica, rumors, okay, is that she saw my work in my research story, so that she kind of suggests, hey, how about let's do a similar like 1-minute teacher videos in AALE project. And of course, there are challenges. First, I try my best to approach to potential participants, but somehow I still lack of participants from time to time. And I remember there were like moments when I crazily reached Angelica and said, hey, Angelica, I'm lack of participants, and can you help me to find someone else? And I don't know, Angelica, whether she's crazily like emailing other professors at McGill who are doing like language education and asks them to introduce their students to me. And the second challenges is that, well, I try my best, as I mentioned, to self-upgrading myself. Like I add videos, I add photos, graphs about their research work into the videos. But now I feel like I somehow reached this bottleneck period where I don't know like what I can do more about, enriching the videos. And if you have any ideas, don't hesitate to share with me. Yeah, and I think that's for me and my part. And I do hope that my experience would somehow inspire you to kind of create your own My Research Story project.
Okay, for the sake of time, I will do this in like the speedy version of this, but in my presentations, I like to work with pictures. This is a picture that you should all be very familiar with. It's the Symposium program website. But what I want to highlight here are the many tabs that are open, because this is actually what my brain feels like currently and in the past 2 weeks, whilst organizing with all of my collaborators here, organizing and planning for this event. And I thought it's a pretty good analogy. And I just wanted to talk a bit about the steps that are involved when organizing the symposium. So first of all, theme and call for papers. Then there's the advertising, the abstract review process that we organized, communication with presenters and attendees, all of you, online presence, so maintaining a website, on-ground organization, which means accommodation, food, tech, and so on and so forth. But what I want to highlight here is that within all of these stages, I get to develop and evolve certain skill sets. So for example, writing is a big skill set of that, and different types of writing. So for call of papers, you have to be writing broad enough to attract a lot of people, but you also have to throw specific keywords in there so that we're kind of all on the same page. So that's a different kind of writing than writing emails. You get my emails, those are long, but I try to be very detailed so that there are not a lot of questions for you left, and so that you feel confident coming here. So that's a different type of writing that I get to train while working for CERN. And the other one is also writing for advertisement, where you have to be even shorter, which is really, really hard for me because I like to write longer. Where you have to be really, have to have really snappy headlines so that people's attention is raised. Then also digital skills. I do not consider myself a techie person, but when I started working for CERN, I started managing WordPress. And then now we're moving on to Drupal. And so what this now has allowed me to do is to think about my own research. And whenever that is finished, how to maybe then organize a website and then maintain a website for my own kind of research to bring that knowledge out there. And then lastly, thinking ahead and maintaining overview of the open tabs. I think that's just a very useful skill overall for your academic lives and also for your personal lives. So lots of skills that I got to learn and then lastly, everything here that you have seen is a collaborative effort. So I'm not saying that I did everything by myself, but this is just my experience that I had, but it's a collaborative effort between the whole organizing committee. So that means also learning how to communicate and figuring out what people's strengths are and putting that into a good place so that you can have a good final product. Making friends. This is how Aisha and I communicate about you. Usually in voice notes, trying to figure out where to place you on the program so that everybody can have the best possible experience. Luckily, she likes voice notes because also my voice notes are very long. Usually deal with that, but it's also about making friends because within those voice notes, while they are mostly about you, they're also about how Aisha is now trying to become a plant mother and how I do not know anything about plants. So it's also very personal. And so we've become good friends over the last years. And then forming professional networks. This is a picture taken last year, around the same time, actually, at the end of last year's symposium. I do not like that picture about myself because I look really tired, like today. But I want to point out Li Peng here. She was one of our volunteers last year. And then at AAAL, she came to my presentation. So it's a really good way to form your network and to find your students.
It's also from our lab.
Okay, so let me also quickly go through my slide. So I was going to say that if you are here because you saw any of our adverts on social media, you can raise up your hand. So I know that my work is actually getting out there and you're here because of that. Anyways, that's just a little joke to start with. So at Serial, we do a lot of research dissemination. I would say most of our programs are around disseminating research for faculty and students. And so for you to do this, I believe you need to have a lot of good skills in graphic designing and organizing, because I would like to argue that you might have the best center, the best website, the best everything, the best tools. But if people don't turn up for your event, it wouldn't be successful. You wouldn't even be happy with yourself. So that is why I feel graphic designing and advertising are very important skills, which I have been able to integrate and develop as I've worked with Serial over the years. So my main role at Serial, along with collaborating with Lisa to create and host and organize all the events, is the graphic design part and social media management. And over the years, I've come to realize that when I started at Serial, I had some of these skills before, but it was mainly for personal use or whatnot. But Serial allowed me to use it for a different audience, to learn how to create content that would be attractive enough to pull the attentions of academia, who we know are on social media for different purposes. It's unlike when you're posting your cat or pet pictures and all that. So for me, it was a kind of a learning experience that I had to, first of all, design a template for all our events, such that whenever you see our event, this one with Jason Smith, that's the template we are using for Research Circle. The one on the other side with Mama Niowo, that's for our grad talks. So the first thing we had to do is basically design a template such that whoever sees these flyers will know, oh, they have a new research circle coming up, they have a new grad talk coming up. And if you notice in our previous years as well, we have a kind of template for our, even the symposium. We don't change things a lot. So we would be at the top of your mind and we'll be consistent. So when you see us, you would know that, okay, this is from Serial and this is the type of event they are trying to advertise. And over the years, I see that, can you move to the next slide? Over the years, next slide. Over the years, so this is the call for paper. So the template I'm talking about. So over the years, we have been able to like grow and reach out to a lot of different audience, both locally and globally, because we have been able to create like a consistent brand identity for ourselves, which I'm happy I'm able to contribute to with my time at Serial. So another thing I'd like to brag about is that although we are new on LinkedIn, we hardly post anything on LinkedIn without having a minimum of 200 impressions. And this is just been 1 year old on Serial, on LinkedIn, without having so much connections. So thank you for, if you are following us there, thank you. If you are yet to, there will be a lot of QR codes coming up that you can check us out there. And one thing I'm also grateful for is that I've been able to build both personal and professional relationships with Professor Enrica and Lisa. And though myself and Lisa, we haven't been able to have our lunch to celebrate, we do that on WhatsApp a lot. This is another way we communicate on WhatsApp. This is her telling me that one of our posts was liked by the Language Center at Harvard. And you see the little emoji, that's me dancing and celebrating to the huge win. So we do that, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. So in terms of how these skills have helped me personally, I think it would be relevant for me to disseminate my own research when I'm done, because you need to do a lot of, if you have book launches and all that, anything you have to do, you are doing as an academia. I think putting yourself out there is very important. And my skills from Serial and my experience doing this as Serial would be helpful to me doing that as I continue in my professional and academic career. So quickly, the next slide. So this slide is to talk about how we reach out to people. Serial and Plurilingual Lab, we do a lot of research dissemination for free, actually. And the QR codes you're seeing there will take you to our YouTube channel. And our YouTube channels are very important to both centers. This is because it allows us to share knowledge for free. In case you missed the previous symposium, you can just, at your free time, relax, go to our YouTube channel. You see a lot of interesting presentations that you can learn from. The research colloquium Lisa talked about earlier, all the recordings are there. So having YouTube helps us to do that. At this point, I would like to tell you to scan the QR codes for both channels. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave your comments to any of the videos you're able to watch. So you would also benefit from your presence online as well. So thank you so much.
And we'll just conclude very briefly here. I think what I really want to highlight is, if you've been inspired to create similar spaces in your institutions, we hope that you would. Because as a graduate student, I think I'm very thankful for my experiences within the Plurilingual Lab, because I feel like it really enriched my graduate student life beyond my courses, and beyond teaching even. And I think Lisa might want to share some last words also.
Yeah, I think I'll also be very brief. I'll just highlight the one that's floated here. Working and presenting and being at a research center means finding your people, and people means finding colleagues, finding friends, finding faculty, and finding all of you. That I think.
And I think this is these words are probably the best conclusion for our event. And maybe Anna, if you want to join me, because you were
I'm urged to say something about about what was just presented, if you don't mind, because otherwise we move on. So I have been involved in Serial as a PhD student, as a research assistant, and in various projects that we have worked with you internationally. Also the grad talk, which gave me a chance to present my dissertation, my defense, prior to my defense, figuring out that it needed a lot more work than I thought. And also, I've been participating in the Plurilingual Lab, attending all the presentations. These two centers have been paramount for me to start the research center at Niagara College. Without these two centers, I would have not had the idea, would have not had the inspiration, would have not had the support. It comes with a lot of challenges, getting the funding, getting people to understand what a research center is, doubting my own abilities on being able to do that as an emergent scholar. These two centers are the foundations for giving me the push to start the center. And I cannot thank you enough for the opportunity and for what you have done. And I hope that I can inspire people in the future, but also to make both centers proud to have pushed me to start my own. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's. Thanks. So please come, all those who have helped. So we are at the end of our journey here on this 5th symposium of the South, and Giacomo come here now in the middle.
Is he taking pictures?
Yeah. And Shelley, come here, please. So, yeah, everybody. Okay, the present one. Then we have we've lost their faces here. Never mind, you can put them back.
Are you sure we can put that forward?
Yes, yeah. What is that?
This is the
See,
final
I-
task for the symposium that I'm doing, I'm telling you.
That's okay.
Where is
Okay,
Misha? There.
it's enough that we see.
Okay, I think I put yours.
It's enough that we see. Okay, fine. That's enough. Yes, thank you very much. I hope I won't make it disappear as I did before. Okay, we are at the end of this event. I am very thankful for your attendance in person and online. I'm extremely happy that the conference, I think I can say, went so well in these wonderful surroundings and the buildings and the rooms that we've had, this hospitality from Western University. So I just wanted to thank again our two plenary speakers that were so good and patient and inspiring in both their lectures in two very different ways. I would like to thank you all, the scientific committee, those who are still here, those who were here yesterday and or even today, or had to leave, and those who didn't make, but worked behind the scenes to make this event possible, as you see from all the different universities. The organizing committee, I couldn't thank them more, because that's core to an event like this. And we're here, and thank you. And I think and all the other collaborators who helped this year, particularly, there was a lot of work behind the scenes for the reviewing process, because we had a lot of submissions and we needed to be very strict in the selection process, and probably that was also something that made the quality of the presentations that we heard. So thank you all to all other collaborators. And as you see, they are many, and these are the volunteers. So a special thank you. And to the sponsor, as we said, I explained at the beginning that we are doing with what we can bottom up, but I think we had an event that is of high quality. And so thank you for my colleagues, also for all this help from that point of view as well. And thank you all for those who were here, who made it to London, those who stayed at home and attended from close areas and very far. We had the people really from also from very far away countries. Thank you for your patience. Some glitches are normal in hybrid events. I think everybody knows by now, have experienced in multiple occasions. So thank you for your questions. Thank you for your collaboration and support throughout this event. And thank you all.